At a time when the stakes couldn't be higher, for the first time in the series history, Qatar is the home of F1 Academy this weekend. As we draw ever closer to the end of the 2024 season, welcome to the Lusail International Circuit and welcome to round 5 of F1 Academy. Qualifying will be getting underway in a few moments' time here at this 5.4 kilometre long circuit. A circuit known for its smooth flowing layout, a combination of technical corners and full throttle sections. A circuit that will very much require high commitment from every driver. Now we can see our 16 F1 Academy drivers in the pit lane at the moment. There has been a small delay to the start of qualifying due to an accident on the track earlier in the Porsche racing, but that will give the drivers a moment to prepare for this session. Not that that's not what they've been doing all morning, of course. You can see what's going on track at the moment. They are just repairing the barriers to make sure it is, of course, as safe as it possibly can be. It was quite a big moment earlier in that Porsche. The driver is okay, just a bit of damage there to, well, both the car and the barriers. But this is a really big moment in terms of the series. Today could be the day where we see Abby Pulling, who sits 95 points ahead of her biggest title contender, Dorian Path, take the title. My name is Nikki Shields. In commentary alongside me is former McLaren driver, factory driver, Joe Osborne. Joe, Abby Pulling, everything is on her today. Although, with that massive points gap, perhaps she's feeling quite relaxed.
Yeah, she'll be claiming everything is on this lady, Dorian Path. It's really last chance saloon for Dorian. She needs to put it on pole position. We've seen nearly every race has been won from that position on the grid, so it'll be super important. She's been great in the build-up form-wise, Dorian Path here at Qatar. She has been fastest in every single session of the 3 days of testing, plus the 2 free practice sessions yesterday. So her confidence will be high, but that point delta is large in the championship, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And we had practice yesterday, 2 practice sessions, and actually got a big credit to Dorian Path because she really doubled down. She took 2 from 2, topping the timings on both sessions, and really showing Abby Pulling that she is very much still in this fight for the contention for the title. Now, to simply explain, basically for Pulling not to be the champion today in the race later on, Pat needs to outscore Pulling by at least 12 points. Now, obviously nothing in motorsport is guaranteed, but if you look back at Pulling's incredible dominance over the course of this season, she has been on the podium 10 out of 10 times, 7 wins, 7 pole positions. It's not a sure thing, but the probability is saying it could be today.
Yeah, the odds are massively in her favour. She's worked so hard this season, racing in 2 programmes, not just Formula 1 Academy, British F4 as well, where she's been very, very quick. The only thing maybe she'll be thinking I could do better is trying to help the team. Rodin in the championship, her team is behind Prema by 7 points. We just saw Lola Lovenfoss there, another Rodin driver. Rodin will be hoping that Abby Pulling, Lovenfoss and Jessica Edgar can help them overhaul Prema in the championship. Prema having Pan and Maya Vug has really helped that team secure first place in the team standings.
Now we have our wild card driver who's racing in one of the Prema cars. We can see her now, actually, Palmowski. Let's have a catch up. We did catch up with her earlier today. Here's what she had to say.
I think in terms of expectations, I'd love to win.
So there we are. We could just hear there from Alicia Palmowski there saying, you know, she would love to win. Yeah, good for her. And actually, if we look back at her past performance here, they had 3 days of testing earlier on in the month, and she was 6th at one point in the timings. Well, that was her worst finish, I think, 6th. And then she's also yesterday finished practice session in P3. That is one of the best performances we have seen from a wildcard driver. Remembering that, of course, the fact that all the other drivers, this is round 6 for them. So they have really embedded themselves into the F1 Academy series, really embedded themselves into driving this F4 car. So for Palmowski to then come to this really with a fresh set of eyes is quite amazing. She is a recent runner-up in the GB4 Championship, so keep an eye on her. Now, let's go to that interview and see what she has to say about being involved in F1 Academy for the first time.
I think in terms of expectations, I'd love to win. I think every driver on the grid would say that they'd love to win. Who likes finishing 5th or 6th? I like to say we're all out there trying to win. But equally, I'm totally aware of the huge learning curve that this is going to be for me, and it's certainly not going to be easy. It could be a big challenge. So being realistic, I just want to learn, progress throughout the weekend, leave the weekend a stronger driver than I joined. And obviously, if we can be in the fight for a podium and be as far forward as possible, then that would be incredible.
Well, very pragmatic, I think, a way of looking at it, but also quietly confident, and understandably so, looking at how she did in the pre-season or the earlier test this month. So this slight delay, Joe, how much is that going to affect the drivers? Will that sort of slightly frustrate them, or actually getting a little bit of time in the car before the session starts? Is that just a moment to breathe, to focus, to really think about what lies ahead and set that target for qualifying?
Yeah, you find with the extra time, it drives a wedge through your mentality. If you're in a good headspace, it gives you more time to focus, think about your reference points, what you want to improve on from your previous session. On the flip side, if you're a bit pessimistic, it sometimes makes you self-doubt, self-question even more any issues you potentially had, and that can make it worse. So every driver deals with it differently. You see a lot of drivers just put the visor down, which is the international sign, no one come and disturb me or talk to me, and just let me get my eye in. I'm looking at all the drivers have got new tyres on the car. I think every driver has used 2 sets of new tyres so far this weekend. They've still got two sets remaining. I'm surprised that none of them have starting on a fresh set. And you can see Hamna Al-Ghazi here, another driver on a new set of tyres ready to go.
Yeah, Hamna Al-Ghazi there, one of the most experienced F1 Academy drivers. She raced last year and again this year. Let's hear from her on the testing experience she had earlier in the month in Qatar and what she wants to get out of this weekend.
It's very, very technical. It's a very technical circuit, and I just feel like putting everything together and making the least mistakes possible is what gets you a good lap. So kind of over driving or over pushing, you won't be able to get that lap together. It's a long track with many corners, so to drive a bit under the limit in some corners would be the key probably to this track.
Always good to hear from Hamna Al-Ghazi, who is in her second year in F1 Academy, and there is a maximum of 2 years that you can do in F1 Academy. That is Hamda. She also has her sister racing alongside her, Hamna Al-Ghazi. They are a force in this series, that's for sure. But it was interesting, actually, Lola Lovenforce, who's been part of the series for 2 years as well, did put on her socials that this is probably going to be potentially her penultimate race weekend in single-seater. She hasn't secured a drive for next year, and that just shows how important it is for these drivers to showcase to the world, to potential other teams, to sponsors, to partners, how great they are to really secure a drive for next year. So it is going to be critical for some of them. There have also been a few new driver announcements for next season, which is exciting to see. Still yet to find out if Dorian Pat will be re-signed with Mercedes, operated by Prema. I mean, I would have thought it's likely, but who knows? I did you watch Jimmy Kimmel this week?
I did not, I'm afraid. But
do you know why I'm asking you?
I do not either.
So this week, Dorian Pat was a guest on the Jimmy Kimmel show. It was quite amazing, and I think it just shows the amount of attention the F1 Academy is getting at the moment. She was a brilliant guest. Do check it out on her socials. It was hysterical. Jimmy Kimmel asked her, what is it that, you know, your most unexpected, or what you've learned about being in America? And she said, oh, I didn't know that Americans ate burgers for breakfast. his response was, they don't. So that was quite funny. But it just shows, you know, the level up that F1 Academy has had this year. Obviously, last year it did run, but it had a completely separate calendar. It wasn't on the F1 stage. This year it is. Lewis Hamilton was in the Mercedes garage earlier, the Mercedes F1 Academy garage earlier, chatting to Dorian Pat. They're showing his support, which I think the fans absolutely loved. They also had the fan zone, loads of fans there speaking to all the drivers. So it has been a truly great year for these female racing drivers, but we can now see the images of Carrie Schreiner, who is with Kick Sauber. She was part of it last year. She did have one win, but at the moment she is sitting P9 in the championship on 24 points. I mean, Joe, I know we're going to be talking a lot about the battle at the top between Pulling and Pat, but actually all of these drivers have got their own battle going on this weekend.
Yeah, you've got to lift yourself up in the championship. It's very tight in that mid-pack. A podium result for any of those drivers, sort of the bottom half of the top 10, could lift them as high as 5th in the points, and it suddenly becomes a lot easier to do your negotiations over winter when you finish that much higher in the championship. So that will be all of their motivations to see what they can do. The drivers are really ready. We've got around 15 seconds to when it could go green, but it looks like it's been delayed by another 2 minutes now. Nightmare for the teams there. You could hear a lot of the engines fired up, so they'll be keeping an eye on the water temperature. The actual ambient temperature relatively low for the region, 22.5 degrees Celsius, so maybe a bit easier for the teams to manage. But again, the teams are maybe telling the drivers to turn the engines off. All of these small things just add a bit more stress for these drivers ahead of a pretty stressful situation that they're already sat in.
Yeah, indeed. And if you are new to F1 Academy, there is Susie Wolf, the Managing Director of F1 Academy. If you are new, then just a reminder, we have 16 drivers today, which is 15 who will have done the season, plus a wild card, aged between 16 and 25 years old. 10 of the teams are liveried up with the F1 logos and branding, and they are run by, operated by teams such as Prema, Rodin, Campos, ART and MP. And then there are other big name sponsors such as Charlotte Tilbury and Tommy Hilfiger. But in a couple of minutes' time, we will be getting our penultimate qualifying session underway. One qualifying session will set the grid for both the races. The quickest time for race 1, second quickest time for race 2. So it is really important in this qualifying session to be consistent, because you really want to gain the best track position. And actually, if we look historically this season, the race has been won from the first corner. The driver coming out of the first corner at the front has gone on to win that race. So being on the front row really is absolutely critical, particularly for Dorian Pat here today, who wants to continue to be in that hunt and compete for the title. So we've just been told we've got another 2 minutes. Oh, it's tense, isn't it? When you think you're going out and another 2 minutes gets added on. We can see the American Express car of Jess Edgar. She's 10th in the driver's standings at the moment on 22 points. Jess Edgar, one of the youngest British drivers. She had a few points on the board in Jeddah and in Miami. I haven't seen any points from her over the last couple of races, but I'm sure she's got plenty to give here. I think what was interesting to see in practice yesterday is just how tight the times were. And no doubt that is partly a consequence of the 3 days of testing that all of the drivers had earlier in the month.
Yeah, definitely. Edgar was actually quickest in FP1 in Sector 3, so she was the fastest of all the drivers, which was really impressive, but the times are going to be quite wild. I say that because we had 2 free practice sessions yesterday, one in these conditions and one at night time, and the difference was 1.8 seconds because of the track temp being 14 degrees lower. So I think the lap times are going to be in the 56s for this session.
Yes, it's 22 degrees air temperature at the moment. So there is Abby Pulling. Let's hear from her now on her thoughts of qualifying in F1 Academy.
I think at every circuit, qualifying's been really important, and nothing has changed going into this weekend. It's quite a mid to high speed circuit, so there's not many big stops to be able to overtake or lunge driver. Of course, there's the main straight where there's a big opportunity to tow past. But qualifying is going to be important, otherwise it's just going to be trying to prosper on other drivers' mistakes.
7 pole positions from her so far this season, which is a record in F1 Academy. Really, the performance that she has brought race after race has been incredibly consistent. But Dorian Pat is the one of the other drivers to score 2 pole positions this season. Chloe Chambers is the only other one. She's had 1 pole position in Barcelona. There we see the papaya of the McLaren car of Bianca Bustamante.
I think we're very close to a green light. The teams have finally been told. Should be going green any second now, and you see all the cars release. The session now only 23 minutes long. It was going to be 30. Just getting some info from my spies on the ground there that they were all planning to do 2 sets of tyres, but the way the regulations are, the minimum tyre pressures that Pirelli stipulates, they will do an outlap, come in, bleed some of that pressure out of the tyres and then go. I think it's too tight now to do that twice on 2 different sets of tyres. I think this ramps the pressure up. I think you've got 1 shot on this set of tyres that are on the cars now to get your lap time in.
It's interesting how many cars came out with the white stickers on the tyres. You can see that indicates that it's a new set, but look at the tyres of Abby Pulling. She has not got a new set, so I would imagine out of any of them, she's going to be coming in first.
I think she did have a new set, but I think the team had actually taken the stickers off, because when we saw that car in the pit lane, I could see they were new. So, yeah, some cars keep the stickers on, some teams like to remove them. I think everyone is on a new set, so I think this is a fair one. Surprised no one did a left field strategy. You could have started on a fresh set of tyres from one of the free practices, let the driver get their eye in, and then bolt the new one would have been the optimal strategy with a 23-minute remaining of that session. But all the teams thought they had 30 minutes, and that's what happens in motorsport. You make a plan, and then some external influence comes in and ruins and destroys the best idea.
And that is just what's so critical, isn't it? You've got to be adaptable. You can't let that shake you. You need to be able to respond quickly in the moment, and that is what F1 Academy has given these drivers, the experience to understand that. You know, in addition to the races, there's been several tests over the course of the year, so really there's just so much track time that these 15 drivers have had that they wouldn't have got elsewhere. We're now on board with Chloe Chambers, American driver racing for the American team Haas, a really data-driven driver. She loves to study all the breaking points beforehand, but she's very much kind of showcased her racing craft and really improved that precision, the skill that we've seen from her over the course of the season. And now she's 4th in the championship, and there's a really interesting battle for 3rd in the standings at the moment. Just 19 points between Maya Bug in 3rd, Chloe Chambers in 4th, and Nerea Marti in 5th. So still a lot to play for those drivers, and she has been announced to be racing for Red Bull next year in F1 Academy. So that's great that she has a seat confirmed.
Yeah, so we're seeing a split strategy on who's boxing and who's staying out. Pulling boxes, Pan stays out. So basically the drivers are going to bleed these tyre pressures down that I said at the start of the session, so they can't start too low. That's a safety feature. If you start the pressures too low, you can get failures in the tyre. So you'll see the mechanics now starting to take some air out the tyres. I think the drivers that had a strong outlap, they push, they got lots of energy into the tyre, are able to then bleed the pressure. I expect all the drivers that are still on track, Diane Pan being one of them, will box at the end of this lap, giving themselves even less time to get the lap time on the board, and it almost cements the chance that they will not run a second set of new tyres, in my opinion.
So there we are. You can see the Mercedes of Dorian Pat there. I wonder whether that visit from Lewis Hamilton this morning gives her a little boost of excitement, a boost of confidence, or do you think that just brings added pressure, knowing how many people are watching and what this could mean to the team?
I think Dorian's got the right mentality. She's always very relaxed. I think it'll going to be a benefit to be able to lean upon someone like Sir Lewis Hamilton. Any questions she might have, let's try and listen how much air they've taken out the tyres. You can see the mechanic being wary of our camera person, not getting what the numbers are there, secretive data, but quite a long bleed. I would expect they've taken 0.15 bar out of the pressures. And we see Emily de Hausch with a new set of tyres on, but I believe she went out, so I can't quite work out why she's got another set on, unless she just decided to scrub a set of new tyres for the race this evening. That could be the only strategy, as we do see Pan now box for that pressure bleed. They're doing that extra lap. they've wasted 2 minutes, or have they actually used those 2 minutes to get the tyres even hotter so they can bleed even more out, meaning the performance window will be larger. I will be able to tell you in about 18 minutes and 24 seconds time.
So just behind Dorian Pat coming into the pit lane is the red Ferrari of Maya Vug. Now, Maya Vug last time out in Singapore had the best weekend of her season. She extended her podium streak to 4 races with back-to-back P2 finishes. Unfortunately, she has reported that she's actually not feeling particularly well this race weekend. However, we really hope she can continue that momentum that we saw out in Singapore and keep pushing, because as we mentioned earlier, not only is she third in the championship, so very much in contention for that, but she is also playing a really important role in the Prema Racing fight for the team's title. Prema are the defending team's champions from last year. So it's going to be critical that she gets as many points on the board today as possible.
Yeah, just listening again to the bleed of the tyres. Slightly longer bleed, I think, on that rear left tyre for Dorian Pan, so maybe she was able to get more temperature, more pressure into it. Bianca Bustamante, she was one of the earlier pitters, so she came in there. I know she wanted to do 2 sets of tyres. It's going to be interesting where they go now. They're going to do a slightly longer prep. Still not looking like she's pushing flat out on this second of her out laps effectively. And she may just be trying to find some track space. 16 cars, 5.4 kilometres. Should be lots of space, but everyone wants to be near the front, so you've got the best chance to do as many laps as possible as we go on board with pulling. Still weaving left and right, coming into turn number 12. Final sector now, so she will be making her decision. Are the tyres ready to push? Am I ready to push? And if the answer is yes, she now has 2 more corners to get her mindset ready to seal this potential championship.
Oh, it's so exciting. I love that view from in the cockpit. You can really, hear the engines down, the reverberations. This is such a big moment. This is one of the biggest qualifying sessions of the year. It's a penultimate race weekend, but it could be the title decider today. And of course, there are 2 points available for both qualifying. So for the pole position on today's race and pole position for tomorrow's race. So it will be critical. All Abby Pulling has to do is get 18 points over the course of the next 4 races, and the title is hers. It doesn't matter what Dorian Pan scores. So you can imagine I suppose in one sense, it's her title to lose, so perhaps there is no pressure on her. But at the same time, it would be nice to get it wrapped up early, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you can take some weight off your shoulders. Interestingly, was still prepping the tyres over the start-finish straight as some of the other cars were still boxing. Saw Hamdal de Crazy with another set of new tyres, so there's another strategy going on there where I think they're scrubbing a set for the race so they can attack maximum there. As we go to Maya Vug, not feeling particularly well today, we heard in some reports, but amazing what adrenaline can do, and that can push that to the back of your mind to make sure the performance levels are still completely top level.
So our American driver Chloe Chambers, we're on board with her. She has, as we mentioned, secured her race drive for next year with Red Bull. Let's hear from her now on qualifying.
A good lap around this circuit is honestly just a clean lap. We found that during testing, it's very easy to overheat the tires from just one little mistake, and it's easy to make mistakes at the circuit as well. So avoiding track limits and just making it a tidy lap really is the way to get a fast lap.
So she's racing for Haas this year, but it's Red Bull Ford for next year. Now, interesting what she mentioned about getting a clean lap in. So far, they've all been very clean laps. Yesterday was quite a different story. Obviously, the drivers really trying to find the limit of the track. We saw a lot of them go wide and end up in that gravel track, which they've introduced to the circuit this year. But it seems to be working really well, that gravel track, for monitoring track limits and ensuring that the drivers stay away from it, although they did find it quite a lot yesterday.
Yeah, it's been placed in a position where the driver wants to let the car run wide, but they don't allow it. So we're going on board, pulling. Finally, the tyres are in. We've only got 13 minutes and 50 seconds remaining. Into turn 1, a long right-hander, double apex with a lot of camber. Pulling gets it in well, got to drag it over to the right for turn 2. Short, sharp brake, just hits the rev limiter, didn't want to go up a gear. Wise move, the gear shift slows you down through a flat-out kink here at turn number 3. And then the first of those gravel traps you were talking about, Nikki, on the exit of here, turn number 4. You'll see it on the left-hand side as we exit the corner. Pulling will want to be as close to it as possible without touching. She does it perfectly, brings it in for 5. Got to get the car over to the right quickly again for a hairpin at 6, the slowest corner of the lap. Easy to lock the front left. Pulling does not do that though, unwinds the lock. Another short, sharp straight up to turn 7. Another hairpin, this time right-hander, slightly faster than the previous, but quite blind to the driver looking in. Look at Abby's head, all the way into the right, trying to spot her exit. Fast-flowing natures of 8 into 9. You want to use as much curb as you can on the right here. Perfect, get it back to the right. You can actually open the corner up here at 10. She gets it in, gets it there, slight rotation from the rear. It's a green sector 1, but purple for Pa, slightly ahead, 16 seconds ahead on the lap. Coming into the final sector we go for Abby Pulling. We then look at Pan. She's now coming into the last corner, turn number 16. This will be the first representative lap time of qualifying. Is it going to be in the 56s? That's my prediction of where it needs to be pole position. Pan has been fastest every single time we've been out here at Qatar. What can she do today? It's a 1:55.9. That's a great lap, Dorian Pa.
What a great way to start. Dorian Pat there, straight to the top of the timings, but obviously very early days to make a call on any of this. 12 minutes still to go. Let's see what Abby Pulling can do as she crosses the timing beam. Can she match the pace of her rival, currently in P3? Great third sector from her, but clearly getting into it there in Sector 1 and Sector 2. So the quickest time that we had yesterday in FP1 was a 1:56.65. So already quicker than the pace from FP1 yesterday. Second practice was faster, but the conditions were completely different, so it's difficult to compare those. So now we are watching Tina Hausmann in the Aston Martin. Tina Hausmann has had a really interesting season. There have been highs and lows from her. She started off well, bringing home a 6th place finish. She's had a couple of retirements as well, but she's been in the points more often than not. Currently P12 in the championship.
Yeah, just going back to Abby Pulling, a little worried that Emily de Houch was only a few car lengths in front, so maybe her next lap might be compromised as well. Maya Vug second at the moment. Hausmann coming into these final couple of corners. Again, we saw cars dipping a wheel in the gravel trap there on exit. Hausmann all good there into this last corner. The later the apex, the more speed you can carry all the way down this long straight here at Qatar. Similar to Bahrain in that, guys, maybe even Jeddah. Some of these drivers trying to work out what track this is most like. First time here for Formula 1 Academy, obviously. Also the first time they'll be racing at night later on this evening as well. Pulling not faster in Sector 2 at the moment. Maya Vug crossing the line. Can she beat Pa? It's yes, by 0.2 a second. Purple Sector 3 as well. Great job, Maya Vug, back on board with Pulling. There's Emily de Houch I was talking about. We're getting a slipstream, but we will start to back out of it. Yeah, you can see that. Then had to get out of the way of Bustamante not to impede her. She's now only got a few seconds to make her mind up. Can she get back up to speed? It doesn't then. She was in the way, I think, for Leah Bloch. She's boxing. Is she going to put another set of new tyres on? I think it's the thing to do there. I think they've got to put a set of tyres on Abby Pulling. The Roden team will be working out. We've got 10 minutes remaining with an outlap. I think they've got time for 4 flying laps. Bloch, we're hearing, had a big moment as well, as did Chloe Chambers. Let's ride on board through this fast sequence of corners, coming out, just touching the gravel trap, then compromising her brake into turn number 6 there. Maybe a couple of tenths loss. Let's look at the slow-mo. You can see she's trying to keep the steering lock on to stay away from that gravel trap. Sometimes feel like there's a magnet attracting the car exactly where you don't want to go. And this was where we were on board with Pulling. She decided she didn't want the lap. Bustamante was pinned, had to get past, and you can then see Bloch kicking up the gravel as well in the background. So Pulling now made a quick decision to box. I think it ultimately would be the right one, but high risk if there were to be a red flag.
Yeah, now we are watching the Tommy Hilfiger car of Nureya Marti. She's had some great qualifying sessions over the course of this season. 2 third-place starts for her. Let's see if she can improve over the course of this qualifying session to better that performance. Interesting to see how Leah Block is going to do. She narrowly missed out on a podium in race 1 by just 0.2 because Dorian Pat got that penalty. But Block's growth across the season has just been phenomenal. She's currently in P7, but let's keep an eye on that, whether it can improve. So, Nerea Marti about to cross the timing beam. What can she do in this lap up to P6?
Yeah, really good lap going on board. Hamda El Koubazi seeing instant Emily de Hausch there speeding in the pit lane. That will potentially mean she would lose her fastest lap if she's found guilty. Great line there from Hamda, gets all over the apex curve into this final corner now. Where does she brake? Right on the 50-meter board, gets it in nicely, hooks up the apex curve, which gets rid of any understeer. She may have struggled, push all the way to the line now. What can she do? Where can she get herself in the standings? She goes all the way up to 4th in the Red Bull car. Great lap from Hamda El Koubazi there.
Yeah, it's just brilliant to see them really wrestling with the car, wrestling into the corners, trying to maximise all the performance they can out of this Formula 4 car. But let's go on board with, or watch Chloe Chambers as she is about to cross the finish line to see what she can do on this lap. She has lost some time there, and it's a P13 for Chloe.
Yeah, surprised at that. Obviously only one of 3 drivers to win a race this year, Chloe Chambers, alongside Dorian Pan and the dominant Abby Pulling. Vug on a purple Sector 1. She currently has just over a 10th to her teammate in Dorian Pan. Can she make that even better? I said she was feeling under the weather. The adrenaline has obviously fully masked that, maybe given her even chance just to focus on what's important and just get back to the pits as quickly as she can to get this session over and done with, keeping a nice tight line there, shortest distance possible into the trickiest section of corners. I think here at 13, as she turns in, the rear needs to be planted, looks good, keeps out the gravel trap. Now she brings it in. She'll be thinking this is a great lap, but look at Dorian Pa, purple Sector 2, 4/10 up. This could be a super fast lap. I think Dorian Pan is on for a low 55, so Maya Vug needs to get this somewhere into a 55.2 would be my prediction to keep hold of pole position in this session.
Now here's something to think about. Would Maya Vug ever help Dorian Pan, given the fact that they are operated by the same Prema team? Dorian Pat needs this. Maya Vug maintains her position in P1. She went purple in Sector 1 and Sector 3, so between them, Dorian Pat, quickest in Sector 2 there, has gone fastest with a 1 minute 55.309. Really interesting. So combined, they have an incredibly fast lap there. Dorian Pat and Maya Vug, can they help each other out after qualifying? Will they swap notes? Can they compare the data and work out who needs to maximise in which sector? Because although Pat is in the Mercedes liveried car and Vug is in the Ferrari liveried car, they are operated both by Prema.
Yes, but only 30 points between them in the standings, so I'd be surprised if they did help. So let's watch Pulling. This was the lap that we watched. Let's listen in on the radio.
Should I talk? Please, please, please. Talk. I can't respond to you if you're constantly on the radio.
And that is the pressure cooker situation of a racing driver. You feel hopeless in the car. The engineer having to be quite firm and say, I can't talk to you if you're talking on the radio. It's a one-way system. You can't both talk. Actually siding the tyres now. The front left takes a big pounding round here. Lots of long radius corners as we go for a replay with Chambers. Gets the car in okay at 14, but then just understeers out wide. Like I was saying, the front left takes a pounding. And for me, Chambers there, the front left is giving up grip, and she wasn't able to keep the trajectory she wanted. As we go to Maya Vug, Prema done a mega job to keep these cars going. Now on their 4th and 5th flying laps. Pat has gone fastest again in 1, not her best in 2. Maya Vug has done a personal best in 2, so has a chance here of maybe reclaiming pole position. But it's a big gap at the moment to Dorian Pan, 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, let's see what Maya Vug can do here as she is about to cross the timing beam in what will probably be one of her last qualifying laps. Maintains her position in P2 there, but has improved on that time. Less than 0.2 off the pace of Dorian Pan, who still has that 1 minute 55.309, the quickest of the session so far. But Abby Pulling is out. It looks like she's potentially caught in a bit of traffic here. Is this going to hinder her lap time here? Let's take a look. Currently in P6, can Abby Pulling, the British driver, she has improved. but to P3. Still slightly 6/10, nearly 7/10 there off the pace of Maya Pan.
She's just in a lot of traffic. Interestingly, she crossed the line with 4 minutes remaining, so with 3 minutes 52 remaining, she should get another 2 laps in, so she's got a chance to back off a little bit to find some space. Look at her hustling so hard. You can see how aggressive she's having to be with that car in the dirty air, kissing the gravel trap, coming out of 14 there. It's starting, desperation is a strong word, but it's starting to feel like it's going away from her a bit. This isn't how it would have gone in her mind this session. Leah Block holding her up potentially there. Look at all these cars jockeying for position. The two sisters, the Quaid Baisies there, trying to get out of the way and did do a good job, but Leah Block is pushing hard herself, so doesn't want to let Pulling go. Pulling can't find any space at the moment. That's the problem, and we can go to Emily de House, who's got a lovely bit of space, so it shows it is possible. You can get a bit of help from the team, but the driver is obviously in control of where they place the car, and I think Pulling should basically give up maybe 3-4 seconds and find that gap and go for 2 more push laps, which she should have time for.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be a frustrating moment in the car, knowing how much rides on this qualifying session. She doesn't have to be on pole position. She doesn't have to be on the front row to get the title today. However, if you're not out at the front, suddenly from the second row backwards, you're in the melee with everyone else. You can then get tangled up in other incidents, and you do not want to be taken out of the race. It's such a critical moment in this title fight.
Yeah, and we're obviously hyper-focused on overall fastest lap times, but remember, second fastest lap time determines race 2, so equally as important at the moment. Maya Vug has the fastest second lap time, so she would be on pole from Dorian Pan. Then our wild card entry of Palmowski would actually be third, dropping Pulling to 4th. So the first 4 are the same, but in a different order, which makes race 2 very interesting also.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be fantastic to see Maya Vug take her first pole position. But we do still have more laps coming in at this penultimate qualifying session for F1 Academy. You can see the hot lips adorned Charlotte Tilbury car of Lola Lovenfoss there. She has improved in Sector 1, but currently just with a P15. She's 2.3 seconds off the pace of our leader at the top, Dorian Pan. What can she do in these last couple of sectors?
Yeah, we saw her social media last night saying how much she wanted to improve from her practice sessions. As a driver, sometimes you feel so alone. You get back to your hotel after a bad day in the office and you just want to talk to the world and go, I know I'm better than this, and not even make excuses, but just try to rationalise why it's not gone your way. Dorian Pan, purple Sector 1. I'm really surprised how long these tyres have lasted. Maybe doing that extra prep lap that Prema did is really starting to pay dividends now as we go into the final minute of qualifying.
Well, fantastic to see there. Dorian Pan just continues to improve. She continues to deliver here in Qatar. It really has been a great start from her yesterday, topping the timings in both practice sessions, and she continues to be on form. Let's take a look at what Lola Lovenfoss can do. Can she improve on her P16 position? Unfortunately, she has not been able to improve. A bit of improvement on the time, but still down in P16. So there is the Mercedes car of Dorian Pan, the French driver who has shown such a dominant display over the course of this season. She won the first race, of course, in Jeddah, still in P1 with a 1 minute 55.2.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Pan actually improved her time, which means she is now demoted her second fastest time, which then makes her on pole for race 2 as well now. So really important lap for Pan there. We saw Block momentarily go up to 3rd, then Pulling got it back off her. So great lap from Leah Block to get herself up to 4th. Palmowski at the moment is dropping down the order. I was surprised at that. It looked like she was improving, but now she is down in 6th. Maya Vug improved on her best Sector 1. Can she reclaim pole position for either race 1 or race 2? She needs to find 0.5 of a second at the moment, so she has lost that pole position that she did hold for so long for race 2 because of her second fastest time being demoted by Dorian Pan.
So this is the final opportunity for these 16 drivers to push as much as they possibly can here at the track in Qatar. They have had so much time at this circuit, the 3 days of testing and yesterday's practice, but this is what it boils down to. We know how important track position is going to be in the race later today, which kicks off at 11 p.m. local time. So that's going to be another concern for them. Maya Vug now into her, let's see if she can improve in her second sector there. She's not improved, but this is going to be the moment where we find out, can Maya Vug take pole position from her teammate Dorian Pat, or is Dorian Pat going to be taking the spoils?
She crosses the beam, and don't worry about the yellow flag, that's just procedure for where the cars go in. It doesn't improve, and it doesn't mean she gets anything for race 2 other than another second position. Dorian Pan crosses the line. Does she improve further? She's going to be crossing the line any second now, getting a good toe off to House. She does not improve, but keeps pole position for race 1 and race 2.
So the formidable French force that is Dorian Pat has taken pole position. Not only today, it was the first race of her season, and now she is keeping her title hopes alive by taking a double pole here in Qatar. What a moment for the French driver.
It's all she could do, isn't it? Pulling in third, does have that teammate in the way, but I don't think there'll be any team orders for Prema between Pat and Vug. You can see them celebrating, very happy with that result there. Be interesting to see Pulling's body language. She looked pretty stressed with 10 minutes remaining. I think she'll be happy with third place, not ecstatic would be my prediction there. She looks a little bit dejected just with how she's holding the steering wheel, and a little uneasy with her grip.
So we've got a replay here of Chloe Chambers. He'll be starting the race from 12th. Whoa, a big moment there for her into the gravel trap. And unfortunately, it has hit the boards there.
Yeah, polystyrene board, I think, has been obliterated quite somewhat, hasn't it? I don't think she'll be getting any free gifts from MSC Cruises anytime soon as we go on with Bustamante losing the rear. That was really loose tailwind on the cars into turns 13, 14. Her car control good. Leah Block as well, also running wide behind Bustamante, maybe just trying to carry the same speed. Great car control, getting on the brake to kind of rotate the car around and keeping it out of the gravel. As the tyres dropped off, the drivers didn't want to believe the grip was gone and kept pushing as hard as they could.
So another front row start for Maya Vug in the Ferrari. She was started on the front row in Singapore, and she does it again.
So P2, not bad, huh? It's front row, let's go.
Yeah, we need to get pole position. We will get it tonight.
That's what I want to hear, but we'll put the Nandos on the line for that.
So obviously very keen to still get a pole position. There is another shot next time out in Abu Dhabi, but it won't be happening here in Qatar, that's for sure. But it was a brilliant, defiant performance there from Maya Vug.
And that's it. It's double pole position. Mega job.
You're done. Yes, no.
Let's go indeed. So that is 4 points in Dorian Powell's favour. A lovely little replay here, a special moment for her with a double pole. She did a double pole in Saudi at the first race weekend. And she does it again just when it counts, keeping those title hopes alive.